He's the son of a town chief and the grandson of a witch doctor. He's also the adopted son of a well-known Christian leader. Jackson TerKeurst's family tree is unorthodox, and so is his journey to find his true identity as a child of God.
Looking at Jackson TerKeurst today, one would never guess his past. He was 7 years old in Liberia when he saw rebels ravage his village. Separated from his large family, Jackson was placed in multiple orphanages for years. At 15, Jackson was adopted by an American family, the TerKeursts, well known for his mom Lisa's books and speaking. Life was more comfortable, but Jackson had multiple layers of trauma to work through. Still on that healing journey, Jackson has come a long way and has insights to share on dealing with one's past.
Well, joining us now for the rest of his story is Jackson TerKeurst, and it's wonderful to have you here with us. Your book had me up until the wee hours as I was reading that. Let's start at the beginning. You were only 7 years old when war broke out in your Liberian village, and first of all, I can't imagine the trauma of that. It was unexpected. It just began to happen, and everybody runs. Tell us what that moment was like for you.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. This is a great opportunity to have this platform to share my story. That night was one of the most horrific nights of my life.
Can't imagine.
I come from a very poor but peaceful family where we value each other in our land, our community. So we were not of violence of any kind. And after a long day of working on the farm, we came home and just had a family time.
Yeah.
Called it a night, went to bed. And in the black of midnight, I'm just laying on my bed, on my bamboo bed, and I'm awakened by something so unfamiliar, like it's a sound of AK-47 and a sound of grenade launchers in a small village, just going off left and right, and hearing mom scream for the children, and in return, the kids scream for the mom in return. So I was confused. I jumped off my bed and curled on the dirt floor, trying to escape and see what's happening. Within seconds, I hear a loud noise on my door. Boo, 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 boo. Who's in there? Who's in there? And the next thing you know is there's gas being poured on top of my hut.
And it's being lit on fire.
And it's being lit on fire.
Good.
And I'm in there. I'm just a 7-year-old boy in there. And I'm about to be burned alive. And it's so scary. But
out of the blue, your aunt shows up.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't even know. Everybody's scrambling. It's dark.
It was dark in there. There's no light.
She grabs you, and you just run for the forest.
We had no time to process what was happening.
How long were you in the forest hiding?
For months. For months and months.
How did you eat? What did you...
Well, we were starving, first of all. There was no food, the actual food for protein. We ate a lot of the roots and other things like that, of fruit we can find. Anything, we were basically animals living with the animals in the deep jungle trying to survive.
So did you, I mean, here you are, you're with your aunt, you have no idea where your family is, you've heard all this violence and trauma. Did you just assume they were dead?
I assumed everyone was gone. I assumed it was just me and my aunt left alive.
Good grief.
Because it was just us, and there's nobody else we can contact, and there's nobody else around we can go to for support.
At a certain point along the way, as you're now away from that violence, you need to have a life. You need to be cared for. Your aunt needs to find her way. You were in 4 different orphanages in 7 years?
That's right.
I mean, we showed a picture of that, one of them in the story. It was just rows of children with plates of rice in front of them. I mean, not a place of nurture, and yet, was it the last place where you met Pastor Kofi?
That was the last place I met Pastor Kofi, and that was a day that the trajectory of my life changed forever. Pastor Kofi had a beautiful orphanage that he ran, and he had over 500 children that he was looking after.
Wow.
And I was one of those children that he took in to one of his orphanages, and I had the privilege of being there. Though it was not the best orphanage, in my eyes at that time, it was the greatest.
So are you missing your family in the midst of all of this? Are you, I mean, now you're
Absolutely.
in a great orphanage and you're able to eat and you're with other kids, but your heart must have been broken.
My heart was always broken. I was always sad, and I felt so alone and did not understand why I'm so alone. There's no brothers around, no sisters around. There's nobody I can talk to or call or email or message. There's nothing. I was basically this kid by himself trying to navigate life all alone.
So at 7 years old, this begins. 7 years later, you've come through 4 orphanages. How in the world did you come to America?
I would say God. First of all, it's God. And second thing is that at the orphanage, Pastor Kofi did an amazing job by implementing that we go to devotions every morning and have devotions every night. Because he's a believer and he's a Christian, and he wanted to implement that to us, and I accepted it. So at devotion at nighttime, he had a choice to either sing a song in honor of what God has done in your life, or you can stand up and quote a Bible verse and talk about your day and what God's doing in your life. But my friends and I decided that it would be best to sing a song. So my friends and I formed a few boys choir, and we started singing around the city and the orphanage. And Pastor Kofi and some missionaries heard us sing, and they decided that it would be a great thing to bring us to America to share our testimony and our story, to have sponsorship for the kids in the orphanage, and to just raise money for them.
So the TerKeurst family hears you, right?
Yeah.
And they decide that you need to be a part of their family. It's a wonderful story of God providing. You know, the Bible says that He puts the lonely in families. But in the midst of all that trauma is still in you.
Yes.
Jackson, how did you deal with that? Because you can't move on.
You cannot.
Until you fix that.
Yeah, it was very hard to adjust to having a family.
You're 15 now.
Yeah, being 15 years old and having to experience all this trauma in my life and having to come to being a part of a loving family, it was hard for me to adjust to this thing. So it was hard at first. It was very, very hard, but God did His work in my life, and to where I was able to go to therapy because of my mom, because of my dad, and then surround me with a community of people who believe in us and who supported us, to youth groups and other things along these lines that help us to not just sleep and walk in our trauma, but to overcome that and think beyond our trauma, and to know that we are safe now in the States. We don't have to worry anymore at all.
So many people who go through trauma wind up with PTSD that sometimes lasts their whole lives. Did you feel like, I ask you this because I think some people they think going to counseling is a weakness.
No.
But it actually helped set you free.
It really, really does. It does. I was one of those people, actually. I was like, oh no, I'm not doing therapy. I'm not going to snitch on myself. I'm not going to talk about my problems to some stranger.
That's one way of putting it.
Right? So, but then I had a really close friend. He sat me down. He said, man, listen, you have to go.
Yeah.
You really need to go. You've been through so much in your lifetime. You have to talk to somebody who can really, really give you professional help.
Yeah.
And you can be able to work through these things that has held you back for so many years. And I thought about it, and I was depressed, and I had anxiety, a lot of anxiety, and a bunch of anger, you know. But I took his advice, and I applied that to my life, and because of that, I started to see change in my life over the years.
I want to mention, because before I talk about the title of the book, and thank you for being here,
Thank you.
I want to mention that God did a miracle for you.
Yes, ma'am.
One day, a brother called you from Africa, from Liberia.
Yes.
And what happened?
Well, he called me, and out of the blue, this guy kept calling me over and over. I was like, who is this number? I don't recognize this number. And he kept calling. So I was like, you know what? I'll pick it up and see who this really is. And when I answered, it was my brother, Jerry. He said,
wow.
Kemu? I said, wait, this sounds very familiar. Is this Jerry? He said, yeah, this is Jerry. And we just lost it. And we lost it. Yeah, it was an incredible moment for us both.
And then he said, there's someone who'd like to say hello to you.
And that's when I just fell to my knees. I fell to my knees and I said, how could this be?
It was your mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, you're lying. I have to come see this for myself. I have to really come to Liberia and put a finger on this, because there were so many years I felt so lonely, and all those times I was lonely and I felt abandoned, I thought about my mom.
Yeah.
Just have her holding me in my arms and what it felt like to have a relationship with your mother.
Yes.
And I missed that so much as a child.
And it turned out both your mom and dad had survived. You have since been to Liberia. Yours is a movie, really. Somebody needs to make a movie of your life. But your book is called The Only Way Forward is Back. What should people take from this?
Well, I would say that to know who you really are as a person, you have to start with who you were. So for me, this book takes me back to my journey of my trauma and the things I dealt with as a young boy that affected me throughout my life. But for you, your testament is different, your story is different than mine. It may not be the same. But one thing I encourage you to do is that I want you to embrace your journey. Embrace the journey that God has given you, because God gave you a story, not just to carry, but to share. Yeah. And if my story can be of inspiration or help anybody to keep moving forward and to embrace their own journey, then I know for a fact that I'm doing what He called me to do.
Yeah. He was with you even before you knew it.
Absolutely, He was.
You can discover more of Jackson's story in his book. It's called The Only Way Forward is Back. Wonderful book. It releases on July 1st, but you can pre-order your copy on Amazon and other bookstores today. Jackson, wonderful to know you.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.